All right, so what we're talking about today is moving someone forward on their athletic goals, and they're going to transition from fat burn into performance. And the first thing we want to take a look at when you do this is making sure that the person really, really wants to do this, and it makes the most sense for them. And whether it does or not, it's all a teachable moment. What that means is some people actually think that they want to make a transition into this, but then as soon as they do, their life starts getting out of control and they start overeating, and then they can't keep the weight off. And so for a time, they might need to stay into a fat burning mode for a period of time, just to get that psychology right and to get that balance with food and that relationship right. Whereas others, they're so ready. They've got the habits of health. They've got the resolve. They've got the wherewithal. And so this is going to be a great thing. And I just say this on the front end to all of you coaches out there that are supporting clients, that you understand that if somebody has been overweight for a very long time and they haven't been at their ideal healthy weight, they may not be healthy enough in their mind to go and pursue a bunch of performance goals, because those performance goals are going to require them to eat a lot more food. And if they're still having struggles with being responsible with food, those things are going to show up quickly. So give them that little understanding saying, my goal is to help you achieve your best health possible. And I'm going to recommend, that we stay with whatever strategy helps you keep that best health. And if we find that any of these changes that we're going to make are compromising that, will you agree on the front end with me that you'd be willing to recognize that and consider doing what's best for your overall health versus a particular performance goal? Okay. And so with that little disclaimer said, okay, and let me make it clear, if you're coaching clients who really are struggling with choices in that regard, they might need to really work with a behavioral specialist or work with somebody in nutrition support, and maybe they're not quite at their ideal healthy weight goal yet. They might want to really focus on that for a time, getting that health and those habits done. And a good indicator for those people would be they've gone through some of the Habits of Health book, they've been doing the exercises in the workbook, and they've been showing that they're learning some things. And then when they're ready to transition, this can be a really key part. Okay. So with that said, I want to introduce the guest that I have on, who's actually a client of ours through, I believe it's Leslie in Louisiana, and Darla. Welcome.
Hi, glad to be here.
Yeah, and I'm so glad. And so it's funny because we're here because you asked to be here. You wanted some support. And
Definitely.
So what I'd like for you to do is if you could just ask the question as if you were asking it the first time of what you're looking for support on and why.
Okay. The main question is that I want to move from 5 and 1. The last 3 years I've been trying to lose 10 pounds, 10 to 12 pounds, and I've tried cleaning. I've been running 5 to 7 days a week, doing multiple workouts and stuff, and just couldn't get the weight off. So Leslie approached me with the 5 and 1, and I was very excited about it, and it came at the most perfect God time in my life, I guess, so to speak. And so transition time in my life. So anyway, I've done it the last 6 weeks, and I've lost 16 pounds, and I'm elated. I've never been this small in my entire life. I actually bought size 2 shorts, and I can't believe I can get into them, so I'm super excited, and had to go buy new running clothes as well, so I'm very excited about that. Anyway, so my goal is I want to fuel my body. I'm all about fueling my body with healthy things, and I feel like I had a grasp of that before 5 and 1, but 5 and 1 really has changed my mindset on even in a whole new dynamic, I guess, with food itself. Mm-hmm. And so I want to be able to fuel my body for this 10-mile, 11, 12-mile runs that I'm going to be doing in the next few weeks for my half marathon, and then as I even move into further deep runs for full marathon training and for my marathon in January. So I want to learn how to fuel my body the proper way.
Oh, I love it. I appreciate that.
How can I do that?
Excellent, excellent. I'm going to help you with that. Real quick, again, disclaimer for you health coaches who are not certified physiologists or performance experts or trainers, that understand that that's my background. So I'm giving this coaching advice from that standpoint. And so otherwise you'd want to refer your client to someone who's an expert in this area versus trying to regurgitate all of this to them. Okay. And this video may or may not be helpful for your client to watch. Do check with your mentor coach before you share this with somebody. Okay. So having said that, Darla, I'm excited for you. So you've got this goal. It's a part of your identity. You're a runner. I'm a runner too. So, and I've competed in marathons and half marathons and 10s and 5s and all kinds of different distances. And long story short is there's something that it just feels good to move and to perform well.
Yeah.
I also love that you have achieved a healthy weight for yourself. Are you now at your ideal healthy weight, or is there still more to go? Where are you at now in that process?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to be 135, and I'm 131.8. So I'm underneath my original goal.
Okay.
So I'd like to maintain right here. I don't want to go any higher by any means. If I lost 3 or 4 more pounds, I would be thrilled. But I really don't want to. I don't want to gain,
And how
obviously.
tall are you?
I'm 5'5.5".
All right, great. So that's actually a very healthy weight, especially if you're a runner. You know, runners at that height are going to be somewhere between 115 and 130 to be at maximal performance levels. And runners who are going to run at recreational levels are going to be between, 125 to 140 probably at your height. Long story short is this, that when you're light on your feet, less impact on the joints, less for the body to have to do. Obviously, you want that lightness to be from fat, not from muscle, right? Because we want your fat burning machinery, and we want those engines. See, muscles are engines, and they propel you forward. It's just the excess baggage we don't want, right? And so
definitely.
you've done that. You've accomplished something in a 6-week period of time that for years you've struggled with. And so you use the 5-in-1 strategy to do that. And turn on that fat metabolism. And so let me talk about a few things that you need to understand about transitioning on a short period of time. Now, normal transition would be about a 6 to 12-week process, depending upon how long you've been in fat burn for or your lifestyle. And there's some psychological reasons why it might be longer than that. But for you, we're going to do a quick transition because you've made a decision that I'm doing this performance goal. You are a runner. It's not like you've never ran before, and here you are. In 3 weeks, you've got this race, and we're going to make you do a half marathon. No. Your body's got some level of conditioning and pattern and coordination to do this. And so being an athlete, I know sometimes of getting that last minute stuff in. The good news for you is you've got 16 less pounds of impact on your body. So you're going to be like, whoa, this is great. But we do have a short time to get your rhythm and your coordination back up to speed, because where an injury is probably going to come in, if it comes in at all, is because if you go from too much, too fast, too soon on joints that have been kind of sitting around and not getting that. So I would say for anybody who is doing a program like this, if you're planning on having a performance goal, start with some walking. Have a long, slow distance day. Maybe there's some walk jogging intervals that are going to be there to get the joints conditioned without too much impact too quick for the first few days. And then as you go forward from a performance standpoint, you can listen to your body, see how it feels. Do your rolling out with a foam roller, get your range of motion stuff into place. And if you don't know anything about what that means, work with a personal trainer or a running conditioning specialist who understands tuning the body up for this. And there are a few negative things you could do, is overstretching prior to runs or not warming up and range of motion properly. And again, you can work with a performance specialist. What I want to talk about in today's conversation, though, is the nutritional needs of transitioning and getting yourself up. And these recommendations are, so I can stay focused and right to the point, are going to be geared towards somebody who's doing a quick transition and they've got an event coming up fairly quick. And this is for somebody, again, who's an athlete. They're conditioned, they're at their ideal healthy weight or very close to it, and they understand where they're at. So with that said, understand that when you were in the 5-in-1 plan, if you were doing all the 5 MetaFast meals, the 1 lean and green meal, your body's been in fat burn. It's been using fat as its primary source of fuel. Well, fat for your primary source of fuel is great when you have excess fat. Well, now that you're at your ideal healthy weight, you're going to be running at a pace most likely that's going to challenge you close to your anaerobic threshold. And fat cannot be your primary source of fuel when you're running like that. You're going to need some glycogen, and that's blood sugar. And that blood sugar is going to have to come from some food and from the muscle, liver, glycogen stores that are stored up. And what does that mean? That means you got to get food stored in for at least about a 3 to 4 day period, ideally 5 to 7 day period prior to any kind of an event or a run for that to be there, or you're going to bonk. And that's basically, you're not going to have enough glycogen left in those muscles to supply for contractions. Your body's going to get into hydrogen and lactic buildups, and that's going to shut you down, and you're going to hit the wall, as we might call it. So the good news is that your body's ready to store glycogen right now. When you have done the 5-in-1, those glycogen levels have been slightly depleted so that your body can now start wanting to convert fat into fuel in process. And so as soon as you start touching any kind of foods that have extra carbohydrates or extra calories that are going to give you more blood sugar, your body's going to want to store those into your muscles, except understand your body's going to need a week or so for it to fully be able to be good at storing that extra food into glycogen. And the reason why your body's not very good at storing that extra food into glycogen is because for 6 weeks, you haven't been giving it any extra external food. Your body's been getting all the glycogen you need from fat internally. And there's just no more or very little of it to go get anymore. So it's about this time looking for external food sources. So what this means is we want to slowly add back more calories from the right food sources that your body can start going, oh, extra fuel, store those as glycogen. And we want to slowly start ramping up your training so that that extra calories that comes in doesn't turn into fat, but gets used in the muscle properly. Okay, so we have two sides of the coin we need to balance, or two sides of the scale we need to balance out, and that is extra fuel coming in with a little extra movement. Extra fuel coming in a little more with a little extra movement. Okay, so if you look at the maintenance guide that is available to everyone on their coach's page, whatever, the .tsfl.com page that you've been ordering your meals off of and going to for extra stuff, there is a guide called the maintenance guide. And if you even just Google TSFL maintenance guide, you'd probably see this PDF pop up. And it's got a basic strategy that's outlined. If you can take all of the 7 weeks to properly do the transition recommendations prior to doing any event, great. However, if your event is in a shorter period of time, like Darla's, which is in 3 weeks, you need to double up on the transition. So you would do week 1 and 2, starting week 1, week 3 and 4, starting week 2, and weeks 3, 4, and 5, or excuse me, weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is what I meant to say. Week 5, 6, 7 in week number 3.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And once you see the guide, you'll know what I'm talking about because it says.
I just looked over it.
Perfect. Okay. And understand Darla's read the guide first. She looked over it. And there's something on there called TEE score, total energy expenditure. And what this is saying is it's trying to balance out those scales of saying how much energy are you burning out versus how much you're taking in. And your total energy expenditure is how many calories you're metabolizing for the day. And just know this, during transition, if your total intake of energy exceeds that of what you're outputting, you're going to store some fat. Right? And don't be so worried about storing a little bit of fat during this performance process. Your body will probably burn it back up, but do be concerned if you're storing a lot of fat. Now, the thing you need to know is that because you've been in fat burn, your glycogen levels being depleted, you probably have dropped 2 to 3 pounds of weight just from muscle, lack of hydration in the muscle from glycogen. So glycogen is a liquid. It's sugar, but it's in liquid form. It's in the muscle, and it has weight. It has quite a bit of weight. The larger of a person you are, the more glycogen stores that you have. The smaller of a person you are, the smaller glycogen stores. For a guy like me, I can make about a 4 to 5 pound change when I'm in fat burn just from glycogen depletion. And I need that to be into fat burn, so my body will use up the fat on my body. Well, what does that mean? It means when I go through transition, I gain that 4 to 5 pounds back. And that's good. So, Darla, you're probably going to gain back a couple pounds just in your muscles pumping back up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
That's lean body mass. It's performance. It's required. So I would almost expect that the scale might bump as you get closer towards the end.
Okay.
Initially, might even see that the scale drops in the beginning of this. And the reason why the scale can drop in the beginning is when you first start adding fuel back in, your metabolism can bump up a notch. And sometimes that bumping up will actually burn off a little excess fat. That's kind of exciting. But just understand it's not about, at this point with these goals, this is not about weight loss at all. This has got to be about performance, and that I want to complete this half marathon injury-free, feeling good, and feel halfway decent about my performance. Right?
Right, definitely. Oh, definitely.
Okay. And so, and if you're an athlete, you want to feel really good about your performance.
Yes.
Now,
run the whole thing.
Yeah, run the whole thing. That's it. So I wouldn't be trying to break any records with a 3-week transition time in the marathon, but we definitely are looking at bringing that back up slowly. Now, there's nothing that's perfect the first time around, which means this one adding weeks 1 and 2 from that maintenance guide, amount of calories, and it tells you which meal to add that into. What I would recommend in the beginning of this is to stay with your 5 MetaFast meals on a short transition plan when you're going to be adding back extra energy. And the reason why I wouldn't be dropping off MetaFast meals is because of this. You need the excess nutrients to be extremely high during this extra performance need. The MetaFast meals are fortified with all the 24 vitamins and minerals. They're going to help control appetite and blood sugar balance. If you start adding back this extra food but dropping off MetaFast meals during this short transition, you're going to be at a slight nutritional deficit because of the extra running. This requires high nutrients, and you might start getting overly hungry. And the last thing we want you is starting to binge on stuff, because if you do, you can't keep up with that. You can't outrun or out exercise a bad diet.
Right.
Okay. And you can eat an extra 500 calories in 5 minutes. You cannot burn 500 calories in 5 minutes. I don't care how fast you run.
Right.
Does that make sense? So during this short transition, which is not normal, you keep all 5 MetaFast meals through the entire 7 weeks. And when it says to add 100 calories here or 100 calories there in the transition guide, you add them at those times from foods that are listed as the proper foods, and you can find those recommendations of what types of food categories to add back.
Okay.
If you're feeling at all that your energy levels are just not high enough to keep up with the running that you're adding back, then you might need to add a little bit more protein to help with that, or you might need to then add a little bit more complex carbohydrate if you can.
Okay.
In the event that you still, above and beyond that, complex carbohydrates, by the way, are going to be things like, some rice, maybe a sweet potato, or it could be a white potato too, but a red potato or a sweet potato or a yam. Those are going to be on the middle glycemic index. Maybe you're going to add back in some brown rices or wild rices. Try and stay with the healthiest whole foods as possible. But in the event that you are just feeling like you need more energy for the runs, you're just dogging it, then you would want to take your MetaFast meals and eat those right prior to the transitional time. And they do a maintenance bar, which is great because it has a little extra sugar. So that sugar can pump up your muscle stores prior to running and prior to performance, and you're going to need that. So if there's ever a time to eat any fruit or any kind of higher glycemic food or something that has a little extra carbohydrate, it's going to be prior to your runs or after your runs. Within 30 minutes prior, and then immediately following afterwards. Okay. So that's where those 5 MetaFast meals, those can be adjusted when you're having those before and after on the days that you run, so that you might stack up a little extra on those times. So what does that mean? It means that if you needed to have a MetaFast meal right afterwards, and also that extra 100 or 200 calories wherever week you're in, and you're going, do I eat them together? Well, yeah, you do, if you need to, especially after you finished a run.
Okay.
And after a run, your muscles are crying out for amino acids. That's like protein mixes, and they're crying out for, and you're going to get that in your MetaFast meal and in the extra food. And your muscles are crying out for blood sugar. And what that means is it's going to go into the muscle and fill that muscle back up. It's not going to go into fat storage. So don't worry about, oh no, I just did this run, I'm losing the benefit because I'm now eating. No. You need the food to refuel the muscle so you can perform again the next day. Okay, that was quick, by the way, everybody. I know that was a lot of stuff. So let me summarize. Understand there's a balance. You're going to be transitioning fairly quickly, so you really want to make sure that the calories coming in, bumping up, are being matched with the energy out. Okay, so week number 1, you're going to add back a little bit of exercise, some runs there at a lower level. Week number 2, you're going to add back a higher volume with those extra calories. Week number 3, you should be at fairly fast paces. And again, we have not talked about what the training looks like for day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5 yet, because that's a different conversation than the nutrition aspects. Make the adjustments to where those meals timing are on the days that you run. You might need to load up a little more before, a little more after, so shuffle the calories around as needed. And if in the event you're just really needing more, you're feeling starved, then try and get those extra calories before and after your runs versus at nighttime per se. Water intake's going to be huge on this. As you're sweating more, you're going to need more water. If you're already at 100 ounces, you're probably not going to need much more than that. But if you're only at 64 right now, then you might need to bump up. And the rule of thumb is that you can weigh yourself prior to your run. And then if you come back afterwards and weigh yourself and you're down a pound, you want to at least drink 8 ounces of water, if not all 16 ounces, which would make up the weight you lost from water.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, now I'm going to stop, and I'm going to defer to any questions that you might have at this point, Darla.
Okay. Well, actually, I was supposed to be doing a 10-mile run tomorrow.
Okay.
with my running group. I have a running group. And so I have barely transitioned at all. So yesterday I did 5 and 1, and I ate a little bit extra vegetables and a little bit extra protein. But actually, it tore my stomach up. So, and today I've had 2 meals, manifest meals. I'm due right now. It's 1 o'clock my time. So I'm due right now for a meal. So if I'm running 10 miles tomorrow, I've only had 2 meals so far today. I've only had 2 manifest meals so far. Now I'm kind of concerned about tomorrow. So
what was your question? Like, what do you do about that?
Yeah, what do you want me to do about today? I mean, should I go ahead and transition and go get some more? I'm gonna need more calories in today, and then the fuel tomorrow morning before my run.
Okay, so here's the thing. Ultimately, whatever you do is your choice.
Okay.
But from a physiological standpoint, not a good idea to go from no running for 3 weeks. And the last time you ran, you only did 6 miles, and now you're going to jump up to 10.
Yeah, I'll probably do 8 and probably walk 2, realistically.
Okay, so regardless of whatever it is, just understand that if you haven't been doing you haven't been doing any running, right?
Not in 3 weeks.
Yeah, your nervous system hasn't had the coordination. The biggest thing is that the tendon and the joints, they need to have a certain level of communication of those muscles talking, and they need to have a certain ability to uptake fuel at a certain rate. And the fact that you're doing fat burn and the fact that you haven't been running on your body, it means you're deconditioned. And that conditioning can come back fairly quickly. But going from last run was 6 miles, and now I'm going to go 8 miles of volume, 8 of it running, 2 miles of it walking, it wouldn't be safe. And I think that the big picture in mind of optimal health would be slightly negated with it. Not to say that you couldn't make it through this run and go, look how well I did. But at the same time, physiologically, you're probably tearing the tendon a little bit and damaging some of the joints and causing some excess inflammation that's going to ultimately start to impede your performance. And so if your goal is to truly run this marathon feeling the best that you can without injury, I wouldn't start your first run as a 10-miler.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, just FYI, most people that were running a half marathon, and this is, again, you might have had a philosophy. I'm giving you the philosophy of working with some of the top coaches and reading some of the top books on this, is that you typically don't even want to do your 10-mile run until the week prior to the half marathon anyway. So, I mean, you can maybe you go up to 11 or 12. Some people do, but typically your longest distance prior to a half marathon for peaking performance would be 11 miles would be your max. And then you're going, well, how am I going to run 13? It just works.
No, you do, right.
You peak and you get the extra 2 miles, or it's actually only an extra mile. It's like it's 12 point, 12 point, how many miles is it? Oh my goodness.
13.1.
Yeah, 13.1. Yeah, 13.1. So 11 to 12 miles is about the max you'd want to go to be able to peak on that half marathon. And so what I would encourage you to do is if you're going to do 10, I won't do it.
No, I won't do it. How many do you think would be safe for tomorrow then? I mean, should I go walk or go run today, like 2 miles or? I
would probably do your kind of a walk jog just to get that timing back, to not overheat the muscles, to not overstress it. I would go probably a walk ratio of 1 to 1 or a 2 to 1 walking to running. So 1 to 1 at the most. And you might go, I'm going to go 2 minutes of walking, 2 minutes of running, 2 minutes of walking, 2 minutes of running, and see how that feels. Force yourself to get that rhythm going again. See what's tight, see what's feeling, whatever it is. See if you can get maybe 6 miles of that in and set yourself up. And then maybe tomorrow you say, you know what, I'm going to see if I can now run for more of that time tomorrow. And then I'm going to run the other parts. But as soon as you start feeling any tightnesses starting towards the second half of the run, that's your indicator that your conditioning has now expired at that point in time. Because if you run on tight muscles, you're now causing damage at high levels. So, because you're forcing the muscle to go through a range that it's saying I'm not stable at.
No, I'll do that then. I don't want to hurt myself. I want to be able. I mean, if I need a full week here of getting a couple runs and get my body adjusted, and next week I do a great 8 or 9 mile run next weekend, I'm totally fine with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. And so,
yeah, I want my body to get the nutrients it needs. I've worked too hard these 6-7 weeks on the 5 and 1 to screw it up in one day. And I wish I wouldn't have ran those few times I've ran the last 6 weeks, because really they took me out of fat burn. So lesson learned. So
well, you know what, you're doing pretty good as far as that, and it's one of those things where you learn as you go, right?
Yeah.
And you perfect it, and ideally, in a real training performance standpoint, we would be at 8 weeks before your event, right?
Right. Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah.
That's ideal, but there's never an ideal kind of setup sometimes. No. So, okay. Any other questions about that?
No, I think I'm good. I'm just gonna figure out like what I'm gonna eat the rest of the day, and go walk around the rest of that, and just I'm gonna go back and read the maintenance guide to figure out like what those extra 100 calories and stuff are to add to those meals and stuff. So
excellent.
I'm doing a little research.
Wonderful, wonderful. And hey, and I always suggest anybody, if you ever want to email nutritionsupport@tsfl.com and just let them know, hey, I'm a runner. I'm going to be doing this event in 3 weeks. I'm going to be doing the transition. What do you think? I just want to have other opinions. And it doesn't mean that whatever they say is gold. It just means it's another thought process. They may give you 1 or 2 other ideas, but ultimately you've got to make a decision based on the information and try it. And then as you try it, you make adjustments. We may have to talk again to make some more adjustments to this, right?
Okay. All right. Sounds great. I appreciate your time.
Oh, no, it's so good. And hey, Darla, and actually, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. So all those of you who are watching this, get back with your mentor coach or your health coach. And again, if you need extra help or support, try and find out who on your team or you can work with. And if you want to work with a running coach, just understand they're not going to be able to fully empathize with the 5 and 1 plan, because they're probably not familiar with that kind of strategy. And so the transitioning recommendations are being made from an experienced coach in running who's also a health coach. And so if you ever get conflicting information from other coaches, it just may mean that they don't empathize with the strategy. They may not have that familiarity. So a lot of times you'll have a personal trainer or some type of specialist making recommendations from their paradigm, how they see the world. And you just have to take it all in and you have to ultimately make a decision and try something. And then you learn from it. Okay. So my information, if you haven't seen or contacted me before, is optimalliving365@gmail.com. And you can email me through that methodology. All right. So Alex McMillan here, and I'm hoping you got some good information out of this.